There was this very rich lady who had 3 daughters. And the 3 daughters got married, and she wanted to test her son-in-law. Did they really marry my daughters for the money, or did they marry them for love, So after a couple of months, she drove with son-in-law number 1 down, going into the city, and they said, there's a nice park with a nice, lake there. Let's stop and have a picnic. They stopped, and the lady got off the car and went into the lake and, I can't swim. Son-in-law number 1 dived into the water. He pulled his mother-in-law out, dusted her. She was so excited. Next morning when he got home, he opened his driveway, he opened his window and his door, and the driveway stood an absolutely shiny Suzuki Swift. The note on the windscreen, from your loving mother-in-law. A couple of months went by, and she wanted to test whether son-in-law number 2 really married for love or married because he loves my daughter. So again, they drove into the city, and they were driving. Same place, nice park, nice pool, jumped in, stopped, put out the mat to have a picnic. The mother-in-law stepped into the water. Help, I can't swim. Son-in-law number 2 dives into the water, rescues his mother-in-law, dries her up. Mother-in-law is beside herself with happiness. Next morning when he gets up, he opens his door, and in his driveway is a shiny Mini Cooper. Oh man, with a note on the windscreen, from your loving mother-in-law. Very excited. A couple of months later, she drives in with son-in-law number 3, the youngest son-in-law. Drives in, sees the same place. Pull over, let's have a picnic. Pull over at the park, spreads out the blanket. She steps into the water and said, help, I can't swim, I'm drowning. The son-in-law looks at the water and says, you know what? I'm not a good swimmer as well. Her mother-in-law drowned. Next morning he gets up, opens the door, and in his driveway is a brand new Lamborghini, all the bells and whistles. He walks over to the Lamborghini, and on the windscreen it reads, from your father-in-law. I just want you to know, when I got married, I had a little Mazda 323. But I'm so glad that Pastor put out the picture, the advert for Alpha. Isn't it amazing? Do you see Bear Grylls there? Did you all see the series with Bear Grylls on TV? It's an amazing guy. Hey, he runs, jumps out of the helicopter, he swims through the lake, he cuts through the forest, he slashes the snakes that are about. I'm amazed at Bear Grylls, but you know what? Who I'm amazed more with is the camera guy. Because every time Bear Grylls is running through the forest, this guy's got a camera and he's running. So I'm not so impressed with Bear Grylls as I'm impressed with the camera guy. This morning, I want to chat to you about dealing with disappointment. The Bible in 1 Peter says, cast your eyes upon the Lord. Oh, I'll probably break it if I do that. And in Ecclesiastes it says, there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to heal and a time to tear down. A time to build and a time to weep. A time to laugh and a time to die. Now, if there's anything I've learned over the many years that I served as a pastor, is that things don't always go as they should. I've been witness to so many tragic stories, more than I wish to really have. And the truth really is that life is hard. God has chosen you and He's chosen me to be His ambassadors. And because we often find our place and we have this expectation and these hopes, but often our hopes and our expectations don't really meet reality. Sometimes our loved one dies, relationships crumble, our friends abandon us, our prayers go unanswered. And trust me, it happens to each one of us. And when we face this uncertainty, we have a few choices on how we can respond to those uncertainties when we're disappointed. We can do one of four things. We can shake our fist at God and lose faith in Him because He didn't stop that bad thing happening to us. We can start quoting Christian words and phrases and hide our confusion and hide and mask our pain. We can simply withdraw and say, you know what? I've had enough of this faith. I've had enough of this Christ. We've had enough of this Christianity, and just withdraw quietly and go away. Or we can acknowledge the pain we're in and yet still keep working for God and God's kingdom. I hope you choose the fourth option. Obviously, that's my hope. We acknowledge the pain we're in, and we keep working for God. And I'm learning to do just that myself. I'd like to share a few thoughts when I feel disappointed and when disappointment comes our way, how God helps and how God helps me. God helps each one of us. When Marge and I first got married, we had a puppy. We bought a puppy. We named her Roxy. And one day in our living room, it was just after Christmas, there was a big, nice balloon on the floor. And our little puppy discovered this balloon. And it runs up to the balloon, it'll tap the balloon or nudge the balloon with its nose, the balloon would pop over and it'd run it and it'll wag its tail, got so excited. Now you and I will know what happens when a dog plays with the balloon. And I knew what was going to happen, but sometimes this nasty streak in us comes out, leave it alone. And Roxy nudges the balloon and runs after the balloon, gets all excited and barks and runs around the little puppies do. And after a few minutes, she decided to strike the balloon with her paw. And you know what happens? Hey, boom! The balloon burst, boom, gone. The poor puppy disappeared. Sadness. And if you read the Bible, you'll find so many of our biblical heroes exactly like that. Happy as Larry, bouncing away. And then the balloon just bursts. Filled with disappointment, they watch their dreams fall apart. You've been there. I've been there. We've all been there. There's some point in our lives, our dreams, our hopes will come crashing down. Whether it's that job promotion we thought we would get, whether it's that car we thought we would buy, or that house we so badly wanted. Sooner or later, our dreams will come crashing down, and how we deal with it is something we need to talk about. How we deal with our disappointments will determine whether we are going to be stronger or whether we get destroyed. Think of Joseph, who had this amazing, beautiful dream. He dreamed that he was going to be the ruler of his family. His brothers are going to bow before him. His father's going to be bowing before him. He's going to be this amazing person. What a dream he had. How did his bubble burst? Sold by his brothers to be a slave, taken as a captive, imprisoned because he's the lady that accused him of rape, put in prison. From having this amazing dream of being the ruler, to ending up in a pit and in jail. How did his bubble burst? Think of Job, one of the richest men with all these amazing sheep and cattle and amazing barns and amazing servants and just a handful of children. Life was so amazing. And in an instant, his bubble burst. Think of Jeremiah. He was called to be a prophet of the Lord, and the Lord blessed Jeremiah and said, Jeremiah, you are going to preach to my people, and you are going to be my blessing in Israel. And every time he opened his mouth to preach, the people would shout him down and reject him. How did his bubble burst? Think of Paul. Paul was called to be an apostle of the Lord. On this amazing, his eyes were opened and he was on this crusade to preach. In every place that he went, all he heard was persecution, more persecution, and more persecution. Shipwreck after shipwreck. Beating after beating. Imprisonment after imprisonment. Rejection after rejection. How did his bubble burst? In the book of Numbers, we read about the children of Israel. They had just come out of Egypt, and now they crossed over the Red Sea. They followed the Lord by day. The Lord was in a cloud during the night, and He was a pillar of fire during the night. He fed them with manna from heaven. He gave them birds to eat. He watched over them. They watched Moses strike a rock and water come out of it. And now they walked and they're getting tired and fed up. And so Moses calls his people and he says, go over to the promised land and have a look at it and come back and tell us what the promised land looks like. In Numbers, the 14th chapter, Caleb and Joshua and the others go into the land that the Lord promised, and they come back. And in the 14th chapter, Joshua and Caleb stand before all the people of Israel, before the priests, before Moses, and said, you know what? Good news. Absolutely good news. The place that the Lord has chosen is flowing with milk and honey. It is amazing. The grass is so green. The rivers are so fresh. The water flows beautifully. The grapes are the size of watermelons. Amazing place. So excited. He says we need to go there and we need to take that place. That's the promised land. And somebody else gets there and said, oh, hang on a second, Joshua. The people that live in those places are giants. When we stood in front of them, we were like grasshoppers. If we go there, they're going to smash us to bits. But Joshua said, that's the promised land. The Lord promised us. We need to go. And in verse 10, do you know what happens? After chapter 14, in verse 10, the people took stones and rocks and started to throw it at Caleb and Joshua and beat them. Said, get out of here. You're lying to us. How much did they bubble burst? Joshua and Caleb had their balloons burst as well. They watched the dream of walking into the promised land disappear. At some point in time, our dreams come crashing down as well. Things don't necessarily materialize the way it should have. But I want to tell you this much. Disappointments are usually just a delay. It's never a full stop. Disappointments are just a delay. It's never a full stop. 3 thoughts that I put down this morning. I said disappointments are only delays. Who says that a setback has to be final? Who says that? Who says a mistake or the promotion we didn't get or that education we didn't succeed at or that marriage that didn't work? Who said it needs to be who said it has to be final? You see, even though Joshua and Caleb didn't on that day go into the promised land, in the book of Joshua, the 2nd chapter, Joshua and Caleb walk into the promised land. And they remember it the way it was, flowing with milk and honey. And my friends, even though you may not be able to taste victory today, even though you may not taste victory today, it does not mean that you won't taste victory tomorrow. Because you did not taste victory today, it does not mean you won't face victory, you won't be victorious tomorrow. You may need to reshuffle your plans. You may need to rearrange your priorities. But disappointments don't have to be final. Think of somebody training for the Olympic Games only to miss out in selection for the one position she tried, or a university student that studies so hard and works so tirelessly to graduate, and just before graduation something unexpected happens. A delay may feel painful, but a delay is not defeat. God's timing is different from ours. Does anybody know who this lady is? That's Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. She's probably the greatest female athlete that ever lived. She won 3 gold medals at the Olympic Games, 4 bronze medals, 6 silver medals at the Olympic Games. She won 10 World Championships gold medals and 6 silver medals. There was no female sprinter better than Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. The 2024 Olympic Games in Paris 2 years ago. At the 100 meters, she took part in the 100 meters and the 200 meters. She won the first heat in the 100 meters. She did it at 10.92, and she was guaranteed to get the 4th gold medal at the 100 meters. She ran the first heat and she won it comfortably. Next day was the semi-final. She got to the training ground, but Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce made a mistake. A card that allows her into the warm-up session and into the final, onto the stadium, she brought the wrong one. When you win the race and you go into the next, they give you a card to allow you back onto the stadium, and she left hers behind in the hotel room. She said, "You know who I am. You know that I'd won the race. A rule is a rule. You needed that swipey to get into the semi-final." She rushed back to the hotel, picked up her little tag that allowed her onto the stadium, onto the track. But by the time she got back, the semi-final was run. She couldn't make it. She was disqualified. But she said something interesting when they asked her, "How do you feel? You must be so disappointed." And she said these wonderful words. She said, "I'm a warrior. I'm a fighter. I'll be back. I'm a warrior. I'm a fighter. I'll be back." 2 months later at the World Championship in Oslo, she won the 100-meter gold, the 200-meter gold, and she won the silver at the 400 meters. Disappointments are delays. They're never full stops. A second thought is that focus on eternal things. Focus on eternal things. Corinthians, the 4th chapter says, therefore, do not lose heart. Do not lose heart. You see, outwardly we may be wasting away, but inwardly we need to be renewed day by day. The troubles are just temporary, and we achieve glory by focusing on things that are eternal. You see, each one of us, and we have this, the moment something goes wrong, I'm in a crisis, I don't know what to do. We are in a crisis, I don't know what we do. Marge's favorite word, there's a crisis. Our circumstances may never change. We need to focus on things that are eternal. You see, when we become mature Christians, we realize that God doesn't stop answering our prayers. Tragedies happen. Setbacks come our way. Disappointments hit us always. But when you're a mature Christian, you realize that you can step back and you realize that the situation you find yourself in is a temporary situation. As Paul puts it in his book in Timothy, he says, that is only but for a season, only for a while. I'm not here to undermine the pain we feel. Don't get me wrong. It's completely normal to feel that pain. But it helps us to realize that God is still on the throne. So when you feel that disappointment, step back and keep your focus on an unchanging God. I like how Peter writes it. He says, cast your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Cast your anxiety upon him, for he cares for you. The King James Version says, cast your burdens upon him. When you receive bad news, when you feel that disappointment, you might feel a mixture of shock and sadness, maybe anger, bitterness. But I want to encourage you to cast that upon the Lord. It's like somebody throwing a fishing line. You cast it and you pull it back. So when you have that coming your way, just cast it to the Lord. At times, you and I get mad, isn't it? We get so angry with God. We want to just tell God off. Why did you let this happen? How could you? You just frustrated with him. I've had enough. Don't pretend it's okay when it's not okay. Don't settle on, and maybe you could start using all Christian phrases and start thinking of those things. Maybe it helps you. But don't act like it doesn't bother you. Don't pretend that it doesn't bother you. You see, our God is a big God. He can handle it. He can handle our anger. He can handle our frustration. He can handle our anger. He can handle our disappointment. Don't act as if you're not bothered. The Lord wants to hear our cry. He wants to hear our hearts. He wants us to be honest with him. And tell him, Lord, I'm really upset. I'm really angry and I'm really frustrated. There's a time for everything. A season for every activity. A time to be born, a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to die. Whatever time you find yourself in, cast it upon the Lord. Don't keep it bottled inside you, because he cares for you. I don't know about you, but I like planting. I'm a gardener. My fingers are pretty clean today because I didn't do gardening for a while. It's winter. But I like gardening. And if you're a gardener, it takes endless patience, isn't it? You need an extreme hope, of course. You plant, and then you wait for it to grow, and then you water it, and just extreme patience. And by the way, I disagree with the belief that it's cheaper to grow your own tomatoes. Trust me, I every single year I buy tomatoes, and I've got a whole heap of tomato trees planted. But if you think of the cost in the seedling that I got to buy, the fertilizer that I got to buy, then I got to water it every second day, get the hose out and water it in the summer. Then I got to chase the birds that come and peck the ripe tomatoes. Then the crop, then the what do you call those little insects that come and eat all the leaves of those trees, and I got to get a fertilizer and spray it and a little something else to kill all those things that grow on this tree. The last year, when I got these tomatoes, I worked out those tomatoes costed me $3 each, and I can tell you, it's cheaper to go to Pack and Save and buy them. I tell you what, no matter how many times we feel defeated by the weather, by the disease by the hungry birds, we keep on gardening. We're just hopeful that one day we'll get it right. I once read about the story of a man who tried to grow some vegetables in his yard as well. He planted them, and after a while, he dug up those carrots. Oh, the tiny little carrots, hard as hell. Couldn't even eat them. She says, oh, this is a waste of time. So he dug up all those carrots and he planted some fruit trees. And he waited and waited for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. It's like the apple tree I got at home, just flowers and no apples. After a while, he says, this is a waste of time. He said, this is crazy. No fruit. So he said, I got a better idea. So what did he do? He said, I'm just going to plant grass there. So he planted the grass. He watered the grass. But the grass didn't grow because of the shade from the trees. I said, I'll tell you what, so he went back to Bunnings and he bought the grass that will grow under shade, and he threw it out there. The sun came out and burnt the grass. He got so fed up. He phoned ready-made the concrete people and said, please just come and concrete my whole backyard. You may laugh at it, but let me tell you, disappointment is never something that we take seriously. 2 disciples were walking on the road to Emmaus, in the book of Luke, chapter 24. They were walking all the way, and the Bible tells us they lived in Emmaus, so they were walking home. And as they were walking, they were speaking about this man, Jesus. They were talking about Jesus. And they were talking about how sad they felt. Sad. And a beautiful, well, not necessarily beautiful, but in verse 24, in verse 24 of chapter 4, of verse 21 rather, of chapter 14, it says, the one person says to the other person, and we had our hope that he was the one. We had our hope that he was the one. They were talking about how Jesus died on the cross. The Romans nailed him, he died. It's 3 days, he's still dead, he's in the tomb. And the one disciple says, and we had our hope that he would be the one. Complete, absolute disappointment. How often that's happened to you and me? We had our hopes that our marriage would work. We had our hope that our loved one would get better. We had our hope that we'd get promoted at that job we applied for. We had our hope that our cricket team would win. Disappointments break us. But depending how we cope with it will determine who we are. History is full of people who have struggled with disappointment and still came up on top. Many years ago, I read this. Somebody sent me a forward email after email. You know that forward chain? Somebody sent me this chain, and I kept it on my computer. About this donkey that fell in a well. The donkey fell in this well. And it illustrates to me the way we need to deal with disappointment. Now, don't fall in a well. That's not what I'm suggesting. The farmer heard this donkey crying, braying, making a noise. He got up there and he looked down at the well and he sees his donkey. It was too far to go. He couldn't pick it up. He didn't have a ladder. There wasn't enough space. He didn't know what else to do with it. He didn't know what to do with this donkey that fell in the well. He called his neighbors and came up with a couple of ideas. Nobody thought of an idea. The one person said, let's do the most humane thing. Let's just bury the donkey and put him out of his misery. So they thought about it and they said, yep, that's a good idea. Let's just put him out of his misery. So the neighbors got together with a shovel. They took some sand and they threw it on the donkey, just trying to bury it in the well. Forget about it. The donkey was in the well and it sees this mud hitting its back. It hurts. But then it did something amazing. Every time they threw a bit of mud on its back, it would shake the mud off and stamp on the dirt. Next shovel. Oh man, shake it off. Stamp on it. And after a little while, the donkey was able to step out of that well and walk away into the pasture. How about it? Disappointment comes your way. Disappointment lands on your back. Shake it off. Stamp on it. And sooner or later, you're going to get out of that well and walk away as well. I wrote in my notes, shake it off, step up, and stomp on it. Shake it off. Shake it up, or shake it off, step up, and stomp on it. And before long, that old, battered, and exhausted donkey stepped out triumphantly out of the well. What seemed like to bury him actually blessed him. Sometimes disappointment can break us, but depends how we cope with it. We can step up and stomp on it. Many of us carry emotions like those hundreds of emails sitting in our inbox. Every disappointment, every worry, every unanswered question gets stored away. And Peter tells us how to manage that burden. The best way to manage it is to transfer it to Jesus. Give it to the Lord. He is strong enough to carry the weight that's bearing us down. And my third point, and I need to end with this, is that disappointments are normal. So don't take it personally. Disappointments are normal. Don't take it personally. When things go wrong, it doesn't mean that God is out to get you. That's life. Disappointments happen. But disappointments do not have to have a negative impact on yourself. Instead, use that and change that negative impact to something positive. I don't know if you watch the idols on TV, the UK idols and the US idols. I think they had Australian idols recently as well. And they'll ask these people when they come out of that, how do you feel? You didn't make the cut. How do you feel? And I feel so disappointed. I don't know what to do. And I say to myself, there's 800 of you who felt disappointed at round one. Deal with it. I shouldn't be saying that, but disappointments happen, eh? That's life. Back to my story of those two travelers. They were walking. And you know what happens to those two travelers? After a while, a third person joined them. And they said to them, where are you going? He said, we're walking. The The Lord Jesus that we trusted so much and our hopes in so much. They crucified him, they buried him, and he's gone, he's dead. This person speaks to them. He talks to them. It's late in the evening, and these two men said, hey, it's so late, come into our house and sit down. Come sit down and have something to eat. And when they ate, this third person took bread. He broke it and said, take and eat it. And when they did that, in verse 31 and verse 32, a beautiful passage of scripture, it says, and their eyes were opened. Isn't that beautiful? And their eyes were open. And then they realized it's the Lord himself. Our hope, it's here, it's him, he's here. The eyes were open. The eyes were open. The truth is, God wants you and I to have our eyes opened. He wants you and I to be realistic. He wants you and I. You know what these two of them said? When their eyes were opened, they got up and said, Christ is alive. They were so excited about it. They were so excited about the fact that Christ was alive that they could not wait. And in verse 32, they say, let's get up, let's go to Jerusalem, and let's tell others that Christ is alive. They needed to share their experience with others. In verse 33, it says, and they got up the same morning. They got up the same hour, and they walked back to Jerusalem. The walk to Emmaus was discouraging, but the walk to Jerusalem was joyous. They were filled with encouragement. They were filled with strength because they were going back with some good news. Have you ever noticed when you drive in your car, and all of us got GPSs in our cars, we want to go to a place, and the GPS tells you, next left turn. You said, oh, I know a shortcut. So you miss that left turn and you go and forward and you take a right turn. You know, the GPS doesn't condemn you. The GPS doesn't say, you fool, I told you turn left and you're turning right. The GPS doesn't say that. What does the GPS say? Recalculating, recalculating, recalculating. In the next 200 meters, take the next right turn. It doesn't condemn you. He doesn't abandon you and say, I gave you to turn left, you turn right, cheers. He doesn't do that. The GPS just finds you a new path and said, in 3 minutes, you'll reach your destination on your right. It finds you a new path. Our God is like that. He doesn't condemn us if we make the wrong turn. He doesn't abandon us if we've done something wrong. Instead, he looks at us and says, I'm recalculating. I'm recalculating. I actually had the GPS put on voice and I said, oh, that doesn't sound very good. It's recalculating. Our God is better than that. Our God, our disappointments him change the route, but they never change God's destination in our life. I was 8 years old. It was Christmas. And I really wanted a bicycle because all my friends that I played with had a bicycle. And every now and then I would steal my elder brother's bigger bicycle and I would ride his bicycle, but it was never good enough because it was his bicycle, I wanted back. I wanted a bicycle. I hinted at my father and my mother, I want a bicycle, bicycle. Christmas morning came, and in our home, we still have that. Just before church, we get the tradition of taking one gift, open it up. And I ran into the lounge, and I look around, there was only boxes, and I realized then there was no bicycle because it wasn't a big box, it was just all small boxes put in. And I remember taking my name was up there, Richard. I took it out there and I opened it, and it was a nice, just a jersey that came out. Oh, I wanted a bicycle, and my mother goes and buys me a jersey. How exciting was that? I can tell you something, the whole morning I went to church, I was as grumpy can get. Got home, everybody's happy, singing Merry Christmas and getting all excited. Here I am, grumpy with my jersey on, not wanting to talk to anybody or look at anybody. We had our lunch. And after lunch, my sisters and my mother went away and washed the dishes, and my father and my brothers, we sat down in the lounge, and we had a whole lot of nuts, those Christmas nuts, walnuts, and what are the other nuts? Whatever nuts. Christmas nuts, all there. In those days, we didn't have any nut crackers. You just smash them with a hammer, put a nut in there and smack it up, and you open it up and you eat it. So my father said, go into the garage and get a hammer. Bring the hammer and come and we'll have some nuts. You think I want to go into the garage and grab the hammer for you? I said to my father, you go and get it yourself. Oh, go and get the hammer. I said, I'm going to ask my brother David. He'll go and get the hammer. Father said, no, I asked you to go and get the hammer. You go and get the hammer. Got up, opened the door, swung the door open. I'm going into the garage. I slammed the door behind me. Angry as anything. Disappointment hit me in the face. Wanted a bicycle, and my mother goes and buys me a jersey. Going to the garage, look for the hammer. Bring the hammer out. I've got a really big hammer. Normally you want a small hammer to smash this. I got the biggest hammer I could find. So I'm going to show my father a point. Grab this hammer, and I'm walking back. Slam the garage door, and right in front of me was the shiniest red bicycle you can ever see. Had a bow in it, it had a horn on it, it had everything a little 8-year-old could ask for. How stupid I felt. Just so that I still took the big hammer and gave my father. Disappointments. Never think of a disappointment as a full stop. Think of that disappointment as simply a pause. I got to ride that bicycle from the time I was 8 years old till I was well into my teens. And 50 years later, whenever I see kids riding bicycles, I still feel that warm, happy feeling. Because I know how happy I felt. How my disappointment was turned into absolute joy. The Lord bless you this Sunday morning. May the Lord has his face to shine upon you. May he be gracious unto you. Come, let's bow in prayer. What an awesome God we serve. Lord, this morning we bring our disappointments to you, whatever they are, our hurts and our pain. And Lord, we know that you and you alone can change the circumstances we find ourselves in. Help us to focus on you. And Lord, let our discouragement be turned to joy. Let our weakness be turned to strength. And let our discouragement changed to encouragement. Bless us this week. And whatever hurdles we face, may we overcome them with your joy. Christ, your Son, I ask. Amen.